All around us, every single day, there's this powerful, influential, and honestly, often invisible force at play. It's called big data, and it's shaping everything from the ads you see online to the way doctors diagnose illnesses. So, what is it really? Well, let's dive in together and unlock the code. So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with just how much data we're talking about. Then, we'll decode the DNA of what actually makes data big. After that, we'll peek inside the machine, see how data becomes a decision, find out where it's already impacting your life, and finally, look at the two sides of the coin, the incredible power and the very real peril.
All right, first things first. Why do we even need a term like big data? Well, it's because we are living right in the middle of a data deluge. I mean, a total explosion of information that's completely unprecedented in human history.
Yeah, forget gigabytes. We're not even talking about terabytes anymore. The unit of measurement for today's data is the petabyte. And to give you an idea of just how massive that is, one single petabyte is like 20 million four-drawer filing cabinets stuffed with text. And we're creating this much data constantly, from our phones, from social media, from everything. It's a scale that our old tools just can't even begin to handle.
And that brings us to a really solid core definition. When we say big data, we're talking about these massive, complex collections of information that are just, well, they're too much for our traditional software to process. It's not just more data, it's a fundamentally different beast altogether. So, what really makes big data big? What's its unique fingerprint? Well, it's defined by a now famous set of characteristics, and they all conveniently start with the letter V. Let's decode them. The original three V's are really the foundation. First, you've got volume. That's the mind-boggling scale, the petabytes we just talked about. Think of all the posts and photos hitting social media every second. Next up is velocity, the incredible speed at which this data is flying in. Think real-time stock trades. And third, there's variety. We're not just talking about neat rows and columns anymore. We're talking text, images, video, sensor data, you name it.
So, okay, we've got scale, speed, and all these different types. That covers the technical side of things for sure. But is that it? Is that the whole story? If you just have a giant, fast-moving, messy pile of data, have you really accomplished anything? Well, not quite. The thinking had to evolve.
And this is where the picture really comes into focus. Two more absolutely crucial V's were added to the mix. First, veracity. This one's all about accuracy and trust. Is the data any good? Because, garbage in, garbage out. And then maybe the most important V of all, value. What's the point? What meaningful, actionable insight are we actually getting from all this?
And this quote just nails it. You can collect all the data in the universe, but if you can't get any real value out of it, you don't have big data, you just have big noise. Value is the entire reason we're doing this. Okay, so we've got this massive, hopefully valuable resource. How do we turn that raw, chaotic data into a clear, confident decision? Let's pull back the curtain and take a look inside the machine. It's really a 5-stage journey, kind of like a pipeline. First, you have to collect the data from all those different sources. Then, it has to be stored somewhere in systems built for this insane scale. After that, it gets processed to clean it up and get it ready. Then comes the real magic. It's analyzed using cool stuff like machine learning to find hidden patterns. And finally, all those insights are visualized, turned into charts and graphs so that we humans can actually understand what's going on. And what's really cool is seeing the actual tools that power this whole thing. For storage, you have technologies like Hadoop, which is basically a giant digital warehouse that can spread data across tons of computers. For processing it super fast, you have things like Spark. And when it's time for analysis, the brains of the operation are often programming languages like Python and R. These are the engines that make the big data machine go. This really represents a huge shift in how we think. The old way was to take a small, clean sample of data to understand what happened in the past. Big data completely flips the script. The goal now is to analyze all the data, the messy stuff, the unstructured stuff, everything, in real time. Not just to see what happened, but to predict what's going to happen next. So, I know this can all sound a little abstract, like something that only happens at giant tech companies. But the truth is, big data is already woven into the fabric of your daily life, in ways you might not even realize. I mean, have you ever wondered how an ad for a pair of shoes you just looked at follows you across the internet? Yep, that's big data.
Or when your bank instantly texts you about a weird charge on your credit card, that's big data too. It's also working behind the scenes, helping doctors spot diseases, helping factories predict when a machine will break down, and even helping your city analyze traffic to make your commute a little less painful. And if you look at all these examples, there's one common thread, one big goal: moving away from just using intuition or guesswork and toward making decisions that are actually driven by data. It's about using the evidence to make smarter, faster, and more accurate choices. But of course, with this much power comes a whole lot of responsibility. Big data isn't some magic bullet. It brings a brand new set of challenges and some pretty tough ethical questions that we absolutely have to face. And there are some really significant hurdles here. We're talking about the risk of algorithmic bias, where bad data leads to unfair or discriminatory outcomes. There are massive, and I mean massive, concerns around privacy and how our personal info is being used. Of course, you still have the problem of poor data quality. Remember veracity? And on top of all that, there's a serious shortage of people who actually have the skills to do this work well. And that right there is really the ultimate takeaway. It's so easy to get obsessed with the big part of big data, the sheer volume, that we forget what really counts. Having high-quality data, and more importantly, having the wisdom and the skill to use it well, is so much more important than just having the most. So I'll leave you with this final thought. This data deluge, it's not slowing down, not for a second. As this ocean of information just keeps getting bigger and bigger, the most important question we have to ask is this: how do we make sure that as our data gets bigger, it also gets smarter, fairer, and more valuable for all of us?